Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Some people think of OCD as like a weakness, but for you it's more like a superpower.
Okay, if you say so. I never considered myself as having superpowers, but I'll take it.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, so today we're going to talk about our most hated sports teams. I had considered calling this least favorite sports teams, but I like most hated better.
You're very aggressive. You like when we do the negative lists.
I really do. I really do like those the best. But before we get to that, so I have to tell you a little story. You know, because you know me very well, you know there are two things, well, there are many things that I don't really do anymore, but two things in particular that I don't do anymore. I don't like using cash. You know that.
You were on the train of like we're going for a cashless society like in 1995.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I very rarely do, I very rarely mail a letter, snail mail.
I mean, most people don't. Like, what do you mail?
Right. Well, here's the story. The other day, I actually had to mail 3 letters in the same day. Like, that never happens.
Right. Okay.
So I don't have any stamps, so I have to go to the post office.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I didn't know exactly how much a stamp costs, but it's probably going to be like $3.75 for 3 stamps to mail 3 letters.
Right.
And I had some change lying around the house, like $4 and change. I figured, okay, great. I'll go buy these stamps. I'll get rid of this change. I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I go to the post office. And it's like $3.63, I think, for 3 stamps. And I give the clerk the change. And he looks at it. He says, "Oh, you've got 2 American quarters here. I can't accept this." And I almost lost it. I'm like, "You're joking, right?" I said to him.
No, well, he can't accept that.
I mean, but it's worth more than Canadian money, not less.
But if their policy is like they only accept Canadian currency, they only accept Canadian currency. They're not like they're not a bank that's exchanging money.
I've never encountered this before because I've used American change in the past. I just assumed that any store will just accept, a quarter, whatever, or a dime, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like he's following the letter of the law. Like most places are just going to let it go. So you didn't have enough money then.
So I didn't. So I had to pay with a credit card.
That's wild. I love that.
Anyway, so
mailing letters, it's a thing. Like I mean, I think I mail a letter like once a year, maybe. Yeah.
So I heard a rumor that we have a lot of listener mail from our last episode.
Mailbag.
Tons, actually, from the last 2 episodes.
Okay.
Right?
I can't wait to hear this.
So the mailbag from our episode on our most rewatchable movies.
Yes.
Steve from Dollard.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Major League, you want to take me outside?" And he actually directed that to you on Facebook. I know you don't read Facebook, but is that like an inside joke with the two of you? Or
yeah. So actually, he called me after that episode. And yes, because there's a scene in the movie. You know which scene he's referring to?
No, I'm not sure.
There's a scene in the movie where I think it's Charlie Sheen says to somebody, "You want me to take him outside and kick out of him?" So Steve and I one day were, I don't know, at a bar or something. This is many, many, many years ago. And there was somebody that was annoying us, I guess, at the bar.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, one of us said to the other, "Do you want me to take him outside and kick the out of him?"
That's classic. All right. Natalie from Pierrefonds says Shawshank Redemption. Jeff from Dollard here said, "Great episode. My choices are Spaceballs, Moneyball, A Few Good Men, Goodfellas, Slapshot," and he has a special mention for Emmanuel. You know what he's talking about? I don't know if we have to go into an explanation there, but whatever. Pierre, I believe someone that you know from Montreal.
Oh yeah, Pierre. We haven't heard from him in a while.
He says Lord of the Rings. He says he watches it every 2 years.
Okay.
Okay. Derek a friend of the show from here in Dollard via Twitter, said The Usual Suspects, because even on the 34th and 35th viewing, I still catch clues I missed in the first dozens of times.
Oh, for sure. I've only seen that movie once, but I'm sure, or twice, but I'm sure if I watched it again, I would find things that I completely missed.
And good friend of the show, Jesse from Dallas, emailed us with his lists. It's Casablanca, Stagecoach, Notting Hill, Searching for Bobby Fischer, The American President, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Air Force One. My wife loves Air Force One, actually. And he also, because we talked about baseball movies specifically, because I said, I had like 4 that I wanted to include. And he said his most rewatchable baseball movie is For Love of the Game. And I know we both really do like that movie.
You and I saw that together, I think, at the theater.
Yeah, we did. Absolutely. And then we had our most recent episode about our crazy stories when we lived in our apartment together in the 90s.
That was a fun episode.
So a big shout out to my Uncle Lenny, who says, yes, he still has a VCR.
Excellent.
And also he reminded me of like that you used to come into his store where he worked at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning and get free bagels.
Nothing like those free bagels. That was the best.
Yeah. Our friend Renata from Chicago.
I was with Renata at the Julep not that long ago.
Yeah, she said, oh my gosh, please talk about the CD tower stand. Do you know what she's talking about?
Did you not have all your CDs in like a tower rack or something?
I did when I moved into this home. I don't know about, I might have had it in the apartment, but I guess she found it amusing that I had like my hundreds of CDs like alphabetized in a stand. Like, I don't know.
Well, mine were also alphabetized, but I don't think I had them in a stand. I think I just had them on my shelf. I don't remember, but yes.
I thought you would know what she's talking about, but like, I really don't know what she's...
No, I think she just thought it was funny that we had our CDs alphabetized, but like, what other way would you have them?
Exactly. Stephanie from Montreal, she says, maybe that girl listens to your podcasts. Now, I don't know if she's referring to the girl that we listened to her phone conversation or the girl that we thought robbed our apartment, but it could be both or either or one, but
maybe they both know each other and maybe they listen together every week. They have like a podcast listen party.
Right. Iona from Vancouver, it said that Steve and I live right next door, which is true. They lived in the building next door.
That is true.
Yeah. Suze from Côte Saint Luc, who we mentioned in the episode, who I actually saw twice this week, which was a great treat. She says, I loved it. I listened with my daughter and we had a few good laughs.
Suze, by the way, was an integral part of the whole Party of Five night, because without Suze, we don't get Carvelli's.
That's right. Tanya from Dollard, she said that was great. I had some sorting work to do today, so I listened to it while doing it, and you literally made me LOL. Thank you! ! Melissa from Montreal, one of the best podcasts you've done. Loved every second of it. See, these are people that knew us then. That's why they find it extra amusing.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then Dan, our friend in North Carolina, said, great podcast, guys. Had me listening to podcasts in its entirety, even without a top 10 format. Speaks to both of your storytelling skills.
Look at that. We have skills.
Yeah, I guess. And then, so I saw, I mentioned that I saw Suze twice this week. I also saw Book and Sean, two other integral people in that episode that we talked about.
Right. No chance they've heard the episode, or no chance they will ever listen to.
They both said they listened to the episode, and I 100% believe Book. I really do believe that he listened, because the way he talked about it.
Okay.
Sean said he listened to it, but for me it's like 50-50. Yeah, so that's the listener mail. Thanks you for everybody for listening. And we had a great time doing both those episodes, but especially the apartment stories. So, you asked listeners for suggestions for topics.
Yes.
And we got one.
We did. We got a few. We got a few. And who sent this one in?
Matt Sanderson from British Columbia.
That's what I thought.
Who is the host of the Nooks and Crannies podcast, which is kind of on a hiatus now, I think. I think he's trying to get it going again. But anyways, he messaged me saying, why don't you guys do like your most hated sports franchises, he called it. And he started naming his, right? And so when I told you about that, you were like, yeah, I can record that right now, you told me. Like,
yes.
You were ready. You were ready to go.
I was.
So as I compiled the list, I realized that there's a lot of synergy in my list of my most hated sports teams with the teams that we mentioned on a past episode when we talked about our favorite sports rivalries, because my favorite rivalries dictates also like my favorite team, but also my most hated team, like my team's biggest rival, right? So there's a lot of synergy in my list with that episode, but I think your list is probably less driven by your fandom, and more by just like
Pure hatred.
yeah. I didn't want to say that because it makes you sound like really evil, but that's exactly the words that were in my head.
I am evil. I am completely evil.
No, but it's you like to hold grudges against.
Oh, I have a long memory, and I definitely hold grudges. And you'll see by my list. There's only 2 teams here that came into our rivalry list months ago when we did it. There's only 2 of the same. Yeah, so this was, like you said, this was easy for me to do. Like, as soon as you told me the topic, I had my list ready to go. The only hard part for me is ranking them, because really I want to put them all at number 1 because I hate them equally. So that was the only hard part. But getting 7 was easy.
Number 7.
So number 7 for me, it's the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, when I don't want all the city of Toronto yelling at me, like it's really,
You don't need to explain your reasoning. You're allowed to.
They only come in at 7 because, when we had the Expos, the Jays were, even though we never played them, I mean, not very often. The interleague play only started sort of at the end.
Right.
Right? The rivalry between the two cities, between the two teams, like the Jays were the obvious choice, when we had the Expos. Since we lost the Expos, it's not as easy to hate them, and they've had some really good teams, and obviously now with Vlad Guerrero Jr., they're, I do like him, like there's some joy in watching him, but like part of it is like the Toronto media. Like they make it very easy to hate the Jays. I mean, they're on every freaking day. It's like nonstop. I can't take them anymore. Like when like a few years ago when the Jays were like, they were in the playoffs for like 2-3 years in a row, and they went pretty far. They went to like the ALCS, I think, one year, right? Like
right, with Jose Bautista.
Yeah, exactly.
And David
I
Price.
hated that team. The whole country, supposedly the whole country was cheering for the Jays, when they were in those series, and I was cheering for Cleveland, Kansas City, Texas. I was going the other way, I didn't care who knew, but so that's the Jays. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing for me. When the Raptors were in the playoffs, I didn't care about the Raptors, even though apparently the whole country did, but I didn't care.
The thing is, the Raptors didn't make my list, just to tell you, like, I have no feelings for the Raptors, like, either way. Like, when they were in the finals, like, was I cheering for them? Kind of, but, like, not because I was Canadian. It was just, like...
Just because you didn't like Kevin Durant.
State. Yeah, exactly. I liked them better than their opponent, but I was actually cheering against them earlier when they were playing, Kawhi made that super famous shot against the Sixers. I was cheering for the Sixers,
So anyway, they're not neither of those Toronto teams are on my list. Actually, none of the Toronto teams are on my list. Number 7 for me, I mean, this is an obvious one. It's the Boston Bruins. And really, the only reason the Boston Bruins are on my list is because of Brad Marchand. That's really the only reason. Like, if he wasn't on the team, they have some really good players like Patrice Bergeron and David Pasternak and, some guys who are now retired, whatever. But because of Brad Marchand, Boston Bruins have to be on my list as most hated. And I'm actually quite thrilled, by the way. I think Brad Marchand is going to miss the entire next season because of an injury. So I am thrilled about this news. Thrilled.
You're thrilled about injuries. That says a lot.
Well, to him.
I know. So the Bruins are in my list. They'll make an appearance much higher up. And I'm going to give you another reason why I hate them when we get to my Bruins pick.
Okay.
Number 6.
So number 6 for me, continuing with the Toronto theme from my number 7, is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, what I said about like the Toronto-centric Canadian sports media making it easy to hate the Jays, multiply that by 1,000 to how they make it easy to hate the Leafs. I mean, like, you cannot turn on any media in this country and not see something about the Leafs when they shouldn't even be talking about the Leafs. Like it's just it's obscene. Like they're in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then meanwhile on TSN they're talking about like what are the Leafs going to do in the draft, like or what's happening with Austin Matthews' summer cottage, like it never ends, right? It freaking never ends. Like they just make it so easy to dislike, and their fans, like the Leaf fans, and it, right? Because you've said this many times, you were never a huge Canadiens fan. You only became a Canadiens fan when you moved to Toronto because you needed to take the other side of the Leafs fans.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely correct. Yeah. And listening when I first moved here and listening to the sports talk call-in shows, I got tired of that very quickly. So I could totally understand. That's why, by the way, and you already do this, that's why in Montreal you need to watch RDS, because to get away from the Toronto news.
Right. So like here's the main reason, like Leafs fans and the Canadian media, for the most part, think that the Leafs are Montreal's number one rival. And that's not true. They are not.
Right.
Right. So that kind of says it all. Like it's a one-sided rivalry.
Right, because the Leafs haven't beat the Canadiens in a playoff series in 50 years.
But I mean, yes, the Leafs played the Canadiens a couple of years ago in the playoffs, and the rivalry's been rekindled. But I mean, the Canadiens Bruins is always going to be the Canadiens' number one rivalry.
For sure,
it's always going to be that.
For
way.
sure, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6 for me, no surprise, it's the North Carolina Tar Heels, and I actually could have moved them up higher because of what happened in March or April when. Right. North Carolina didn't even have such a good season this year, and Duke had a great regular season this year. And then they actually meet for the first time in the NCAA tournament in the Final Four, and it's obviously Coach K's last year. And I don't know about you, but I was nervous going into the game because, Duke was supposed to win that game, and they didn't. And
no,
I mean, I hated North Carolina even before, but now I hate them even more. And I was so relieved when North Carolina did not win the championship 2 days later.
I actually thought that North Carolina had a very, very good chance of winning that game. I didn't think this Duke team was nearly as good as everybody thought. Of course, I wanted them to go win and keep winning. I wanted them to advance. Like they made it to the Final Four, great. But like I never thought that iteration of Duke was a championship team, and I always thought that North Carolina had a great chance of winning. Like, and they did, right? So there you go.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but Duke, and I get that you think that Duke didn't have such a great team and maybe didn't deserve to win the championship. That's fine. But on paper, they had a much better team than North Carolina.
Number 5.
All right, number 5. I'm calling out a whole country, Josh.
Okay.
Germany. Now, specifically, the German men's soccer team.
All right.
So
I like it.
So fans of the podcast know I'm a huge soccer fan, and the team that I cheer for internationally is England. Well, that might change at the upcoming World Cup because Canada's in it now, so I got 2 rooting interests.
But they're not in the same group, so you're okay.
They're not. So, God, England lost so many games to Germany so many times on ridiculous ways, and it seems like we could never beat them. And then finally in the last Euro we did beat them. It was such a crowning moment, it was amazing. But like, did I ever tell you the story, like when I first started following like soccer? It was in 1990 in the World Cup, because I was living in England for the summer, right? So I got swept up in the World Cup and everything, and right. England had a great team and they made it to the semifinals that year. And England played Germany in the semifinals, and I went with my friends and we watched in a bar on a giant screen. And I learned that World War II, really is a much bigger thing than it is in England than it is in Canada, right? Like, because there were people screaming at the TV, "Kill those Nazi bastards." During the game. That's all I heard, So, yeah, that's Germany.
Since you put Germany on your list, I wonder if later on in your list, we're going to hear from Italy.
No, I mean, I do hate them a lot. But, and you know what? They could have made it here because it's the fans too that really drive me nuts. You know, because I personally don't know any fans of the German team, and I know tons of Italy fans, right? And they annoy the hell out of me. They should have probably made it. You're right, but I think I looked at more of the rivalry with my team. So
Okay.
because England just hasn't historically played Italy. I mean, I know they did in the last Euro, but historically we haven't had that rivalry with them.
Okay, so next on my list is the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. I don't even like college football. In fact, I hate college football. And that's part of the reason why they're on here. So this is not just Alabama, but it's pretty much every single NCAA football team can be number 5 on my list. But Alabama is the most hated one. And it's only because of Nick Saban. I can't stand Nick Saban. Every time I see Nick Saban, I want to punch him in the face. Because he's first of all, he just lies about everything. And he never gives you a straight answer. And he's just this smug guy that you want to slap. And plus Alabama wins it seems like every second year. So when they don't win, I'm thrilled. But yes, Alabama Crimson Tide, one of my most hated sports teams, without a doubt.
Number 4.
Number 4, you knew it was going to be on my list, Josh. You knew it. It's the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh yes, of course.
They're so freaking arrogant. Their fans are so arrogant. They're so easy to hate. I hate them so much. This is a franchise that they say they're the most successful franchise in the NBA in terms of championships won and the history of the team, and yes, they've got all that, but I mean, they have this history in recent times. They buy the championships. They stink. They don't even rebuild like a normal team. They just go out and get LeBron James, or they go out and they suck. Let's go get Shaq, right? Like they just go and get like the best players. Players want to play there because it's Los Angeles and it's Hollywood, so it makes it easy for them to just spend all the money and reload. So I'm just so happy that they sucked the last 2 years. I was
going to say you must have enjoyed the last couple of seasons.
It's great because they think they have this great team, but they're brutal. They're really brutal. And they're not now. There's all this talk about Kyrie Irving possibly being traded to the Lakers. I hope they get him. I hope they do get him so that I could hate them even more.
That would be fun. Yes,
it'll be the first time the Lakers are become like a villain, I think, in a long time. A villain, not in my eyes, but in the eyes of the league, right? In general. So.
Okay, so this next one you'd never guess if I gave you 100 guesses. Number 4 on my list, it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So
what, the CFL?
There's a specific reason why I'm picking this Hamilton Tiger Cats team to be on this list, and they could have even been number 1.
Is it the Oski Wee Wee, Oscar Woo, that whole song?
That's not why I hate them, but yes, they do that song. So most of the listeners don't know I used to work for the Canadian Football League, and part of my responsibilities, I would have to interact with the front office of every single team in the league. And without a doubt, the worst front office to deal with was the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Whether I was talking to their team president or if I had to talk to, one of their assistant coaches or whatever it was. And some of those people are still working for the team today. I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with them. But basically, anytime I happen to turn on the television and the Tiger Cats are playing, I want them to lose.
That's so funny. So it's real personal experience.
Oh yeah, no, it's 100% it's personal.
It's funny because they say, we hear it's like a cliche that, organizational culture start, from the top down, and, it probably is true, right? That's the organizational culture, is just cutthroat and business and, and it's funny because the Ticats outwardly, like a few of the Canadian football teams, have this aura of they're this community team. You know what I mean? It's like a smaller city.
Yeah.
They're in the shadow of Toronto.
Yeah.
But I guess internally it's not like that.
Well, I mean, I've never spoken to any of the players on the team, so I can't speak for them. But meanwhile, any of the players that are on the team now were not on the team 10 years ago, I don't think. But I'm talking about the front office people.
Yeah, sure.
They just don't care about anything other than themselves.
Wow. Calling them out, Josh.
No, and look, if they're listening, great. You all suck, and I hope you lose every game.
Oh my God, this is so mean.
Number 3.
So number 3 for me, I talked about it before. It's the Boston Bruins. They were on your list. You gave great reasons. I told you the real reason for me, they're the number 1 rival of the Canadiens. They have been for years. When we face each other in the playoffs, it's brutal, both sides. It's heated, it's aggressive. It's really like it's all out, especially like in the 2000s, we played them in the playoffs like so many times, right? Like, so the more you play a team in the playoffs too, like the more the heated the rivalry gets. But I told you I had another good reason to hate the Bruins, and that's their announcer, Jack Edwards.
Oh, that is a good one. Yes.
He is, I don't want to like, he is the most cliche in terms of like, what's a homer, like a hometown announcer that sees things only with one side. This guy only one way. Like this guy, like has Bruins glasses. He sees everything in black and yellow. Like it's really like it's really crazy. Like how one-sided he is. Outside of the Montreal-Boston rivalry, people aren't going to know this, but like when Zdeno Chara almost killed Max Pacioretty, and I'm not exaggerating when I say almost killed. Like he was lying on the ice, motionless. Jack Edwards, like you have to hear the stuff coming from the Bruins side. It's just like he deserved it. He had his head down. I don't care if he had his head down. Like come on. Like it was really obscene at the time, and so I will always hate the Bruins, and especially him just for that.
So since you mentioned the team's play-by-play announcer,
yeah,
I wonder if the New York Yankees and the Chicago White Sox are in your list because their play-by-play announcers also suck.
Well, the White Sox have that guy Ken Harrelson, right?
He may have retired just like recently, but when he was around,
and the Yankees have 2 different announcers.
Well,
right?
they have
John Sterling.
I'm talking about Michael Kay, I think, is the one that I don't.
Yeah,
like.
and Michael Kay, because they have a radio and a
right.
Anyway, so they're both. Michael Kay's not as bad. You think he's that bad?
I don't know. Maybe it's just his voice that annoys me.
It's funny because I am a Red Sox fan, but I didn't put the Yankees on my list because I don't hate the Yankees. I don't hate them like with a passion, like some of these teams.
All right, the next 3 you can guess easily for me, but I'll tell you anyway, and it could have been a 3-way tie. The Washington Nationals. So look, it's obvious. They stole Montreal's baseball team, so I'll always hate them. This is why, they could have even been number 1. Furthermore, they proceed to win a World Series, and then their fans complain when they start trading away all their good players and the team starts to suck. Well, hello, I know exactly what that feels like, and you have no business complaining because you won a World Series and you stole our team. So, like, I don't feel bad for you, and I hope you lose every single game this year. I hope you go 0-162.
We're really holding a lot of grudges. People listening for the first time are going to be like, man, these guys are hardcore. They're really like going after their most hated teams.
We should only do most hated from now on. I love when we do negative stuff.
So, like, I have no feeling for the Nationals either way. When the Nationals won the World Series, people are like, how do you feel about it being this hardcore Expos fan? I'm like, I don't care.
I was pissed.
Expos.
I was so pissed. And they were playing Houston that year, and everyone hates the Houston Astros because of what they did, even though at the time they didn't know it yet. I was still rooting for the Houston Astros, heavily.
Heavily, I remember.
Number 2.
So, number 2 for me, you could probably guess, that's, and I'm putting it in air quotes, Josh, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes, of course.
Yeah, America's team. It's like, please, America's team, give me a break. Like, they invented this saying. Somehow it became, like, it's just a joke. Like, honestly, Cowboy fans, oh my God. They've been my most hated team in every era that I've watched football, right? Like, the Tony Dorsett teams, hated them. Troy Aikman teams, hated them. Tony Romo teams, hated them. This version of the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott, hate them. I can't stand. I've had a hatred for the Cowboys my whole NFL rooting career. And then to top it all off, like, is there a more unlikable owner, Josh, in sports than Jerry Jones? Like, I don't.
Well, there is, because there are some owners, especially in the NFL, who are just completely clueless. And then there's also the owner of the Knicks who, you know.
Well, yeah, you're right. You know, that's a good one. That's a good one. I just think that, like, you know, when I watch the current iteration of the Cowboys, and when I say current, it's going back like at least 20 years. Like, we're talking about the Tony Romo till now. They have one, all those teams have one thing in common. They have crumbled under the pressure of their expectations at every turn. Every time you think the Cowboys are good, they will show you why they suck. And I think they're going to keep doing that. I don't know. It's going to take a certain kind of personality of a certain kind of coach or player, maybe at a key position, a quarterback, that's going to have to try to break that, because it's not going to be easy.
Okay, so next for me, and again, these top three, I could have rearranged the order. It's the Atlanta Braves. I can't stand the Atlanta Braves. This is dating back to, of course, 1994, but the 90s in general.
Yeah.
So Atlanta, I think, won the NL East, 9 out of 10 years. The only time they didn't win the NL East was in 1994 when the season never finished. But we all know.
But when Braves fans or announcers say that stat, they will say the Braves won the NL East 9 years in a row or 10 years.
Right, because they discount 1994.
Yeah,
which is another reason why I hate the Braves.
Fact, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this stems from the frustration that I will always have about what happened in 1994 when Montreal had the best record in baseball and the season wasn't allowed to get completed or to be completed. So, and that was finally the year that someone was going to knock the Braves out of their perch. Now when they won the World Series last year, I didn't even watch the final out because I didn't want to see it. And this similar thing, like, they were good in the 90s and now they're good again. So yeah. I don't feel bad for them when they're bad. In fact, I relish it when they are bad. Last year really annoyed me a lot because they went and acquired like all those schlubs at the trade deadline who are not good players, but for some reason they were like so hot for 2 months and propelled them to win the World Series. So whatever.
It's really strange because they kind of won the World Series like despite themselves,
Yeah, by accident.
Yeah. And you hate them despite the fact, isn't their GM from Montreal?
Yes, that's another reason I actually hate them.
Really?
Yes. Like, I never liked that guy. When he was the GM of the Blue Jays, I didn't like him.
Yeah.
Now he's the GM of the Braves. Everyone seems to think he's some kind of genius.
We're talking about Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah, I mean, like, sure, he knows his baseball, but is he a genius or did he just, did he get lucky? I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
Number 1.
All right, we're at number 1. There, you mentioned them. I know who your number 1 is, but I don't. You must know who my number 1 is. Like, anyways.
Well, I thought your number 1 was going to be the Lakers, but now I'm thinking, is it, I don't know, Manchester United?
No, it's the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Oh, right, okay.
This is the one team that's different from anything else in my list. Like, I just refuse to find anything positive about any of their players or any of their coaches, no matter what happens. Like they made it to the final last year. They made it to the championship game. Everyone's throwing flowers and accolades at Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis is a freaking scumbag. I don't care what anybody says. Okay? I don't care what anybody says. Nice guy, not a nice guy. I don't believe a word of it, right? I remember him as a player. I like, anyways. Look, North Carolina, they are a successful program. They've got 6 national championships in their history. They have a storied history, Dean Smith, and then he passed the baton to Roy Williams and now Hubert Davis. They have this storied history, which is great if you're a Carolina fan, but like this is how far my hatred goes, because as far as I'm concerned, despite all their success, the greatest moment in the team's history is when Gerald Henderson broke Tyler Hansbrough's nose. That is the greatest play in the history of North Carolina basketball, coming from a Duke Blue Devils fan.
That's hilarious. I remember that play. I'll never forget it with the blood dripping down. It was great.
Yeah. It's not Michael Jordan's game-winning shot. It's not,
James Worthy.
I don't want to tell you, like, it's not James Worthy. It's not, it's not any of this other stuff. It's Tyler Hansbrough getting smashed in the face.
Nice. Okay. I'm at
All
number
right.
one.
So number one, I know it is. Go for it.
It's the New England Patriots.
Yeah, sure.
So another Boston area team. I had one at number 7 and now another one at number 1. I mean, listen, everyone knows how much I hate the New England Patriots. I want them to lose every game. Even after Tom Brady left, I still want them to lose every game. They haven't really been very good since he left, which
They've been okay. They were in the playoffs last year, I think, with the
right, but then
But,
they
you know,
lose.
they're-
But then
they're-
they lose in the first round.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was actually nervous when they made the playoffs because you never know what's going to happen, right? When they make the playoffs. So
Right.
I was relieved when they finally lost. Like, I can't watch these games because they annoy me too much. They frustrate me too much. You know, Bill Belichick, he's a scumbag. He needs to be punched in the head as well. You know, so you know how you're saying that your list for most hated teams is very similar to your favorite rivalries? My list for most hated teams is very similar to most hated sports personalities that we did, not including
Right.
athletes.
Right.
When we did that episode.
Coaches.
Right.
Right. Coaches. Like, obviously, you have a real hatred for Belichick.
I do.
Like, who do you hate more? Like, Belichick or Brady? I guess it's Belichick.
No, I hate Belichick more. Yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But, like, now you have an offshoot of a hated team, which is Tampa, or is that not true?
oh, absolutely. It's 100% true, but I was only allowed to put 7 on my list.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know how, like, so, like, a basketball coach or football coach, like, they have, like, a coaching tree.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have your own. You have, like, the most hated team, like the Patriots, and they've spawned an offshoot, which is Tampa, right?
Right, well,
Which
because
maybe
Tampa
will spawn
has
something
Brady,
else.
and they also had Gronk. If we were doing top 8, Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have been on my list for sure.
So I had a few honorable mentions. You mentioned Manchester United. They weren't strong enough to make my list.
Mm-hmm.
And the New York Yankees also. I mentioned them, but whatever. I hate the Seattle Seahawks, Josh. And that's only because of Pete Carroll. I can't stand that guy. And then the other one I have on my list is Tiger Woods. Now, he's a person. He's not a team. But I'm sure I told you this story. My son was like 7 or 8 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever year it was. Maybe I may be getting the ages wrong. But when Tiger Woods was in all the news, like Tiger Woods is in all the news all the time, right? When his wife tried to kill him with a golf club and smash his car and all this, and you know, like Tiger Woods was in the news like crazy. And we're driving in the car one day, and my son knows that Tiger Woods is something to do with golf, right? But we're in the car and he's like, "Daddy, I have a weird question to ask you." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Is Tiger Woods a person or a team?" Because he didn't know. Like, he didn't know. Like,
That's a funny question.
Because his name is a little bit strange, like Tiger Woods. It's not like a normal name. And he's 7 years old. What does he know about golf, right? Like, so, like, I just thought it was funny. So because he once asked me if Tiger Woods is a team, I had him on the honorable mentions for most hated team.
That's fair. I like it.
Yeah.
So my honorable mentions, I already told you one of them is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Sure.
And the only other one is the Kentucky Wildcats. Of course, I hate the
they
Kentucky
could be in there. Yeah.
Of course, I hate the Kentucky Wildcats for a bunch of reasons. But the truth is, the reason they didn't make it into the top 7 is because Duke usually beats them almost all the time. So it's like, whatever.
The Skip and Josh podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now for some final thoughts from the guys.
All right, Josh, I have an update for you on the song of the summer because you asked me last time about the song of the summer. I told you I would go back and do my research.
Yes, I was waiting for 2 weeks to ask you this question. So go ahead. Tell us.
So I consulted with the family here,
Yeah.
and especially my daughter, and we came to the consensus that there's 2 contenders for Song of the Summer.
I hope one of them is not the Kate Bush song.
No, it's not. It's Harry Styles, As It Was, which is, I mentioned you last week. I just didn't remember the name of the song. And then the other song that's in contention is Lizzo. You know Lizzo?
I've heard of Lizzo, but I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you what the song
So
is.
Lizzo has a song now that's really popular called It's About Damn Time. So those are like the 2 songs that are really like dominating the radio, you know, and in the summer of 2022.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of pop culture, I wanted to let you know I started watching season 2 of Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, I didn't. I knew it was out, but we didn't start watching it because we wanted to wait till the whole season's available.
Right.
Like, we don't wanna wait.
There's only 2 episodes, so yes.
Uh-huh. How
And
do you like it so far? Is it good?
yeah, it's good. They don't use, you know how they kept using the same music from
Uh-huh.
From-
The fake serial music?
correct.
Yeah.
And they don't use it as much, and they've changed it a little bit. So I'm a little disappointed about that.
Oh, that's too bad.
And another show that I started watching now, I think this is from 2014 or 2015, but I just started watching it this week. And it's on Prime, so I don't know if you have ever seen it. It's called Red Oaks.
No, I heard of it.
It's a cross between Dirty Dancing and Fast Times at Ridgemount High.
Oh, okay. That's fun. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm enjoying that show. So those are the shows that
So I don't get Prime, but I think what we decided is probably like at Christmas time when like you're just like stuck at home and like that's when we tend to watch a lot of shows like the Christmas break. I'll probably like buy something from Amazon, get a free month of Prime, and we'll just watch everything.
By the way, one of the good things about Red Oaks
Yeah.
is at the end of every episode, like as the last scene is happening and as the credits are rolling, they always play, and it's set in the 80s. So they always play an 80s song, and it's always different, and it's usually good. So like I want to watch the credits because I want to hear the song. So it's,
Right.
you can skip the
love
credits and just go to the next episode, but I never do that. I want to hear the song.
And then speaking of the 80s, so I watched like the final 2 episodes of season 4 of Stranger Things.
Okay.
There was only 2 episodes that came out, but they were long. One was an hour and a half and one was 2 hours and a half. So they were like movies.
So is the show over now?
No, there's going to be season 5. They've already like teased into that because season 4 ends on a like it's leading up to the next thing. But I really really enjoyed the last 2 long, whatever you want to call them. They're not episodes. Like the last 2 episodes of Stranger Things. They were fantastic, and like I just love them. They were really really well done and really good. So that's all I have to say.
So speaking of that, you mentioned how, they use the Kate Bush song in virtually every
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
So this is what bothers me. Here's another what bugs me, and I didn't even expect this one. So I know the song, you know the song, we heard it many years ago, but there are all these people like half our age and even older than that who think that this is a brand new song that was just written yesterday, and they have no clue that it's from like the 80s. And like I'm seeing it in all these videos, like people like even our friend Joe, I think used it in one of his Instagram posts or something. And it's like, people, do you not realize the song has been around for 1,000,000 years and you're only discovering it now? Like,
It's true. And in the last episode, there was a song by Metallica. I'm not a Metallica fan, so I don't want to even remember the name of the song. So it's getting like they're calling it like the Stranger Things treatment. Like that song has like gotten back onto the top of like the heavy metal charts and all this. Like it's just kind of crazy that it just shows the power of Stranger Things. It is the most popular. I saw the article about it's they're counting like the number of hours it's been streamed by people. Like that's how they calculate like they're most successful. It's the most successful American show that Netflix has ever had. There's only one show that's been streamed more, which was Squid Game, which I know I didn't watch, and I don't think you watched it either.
no, I didn't watch that.
But that's like a Korean show, and it has this all other audience, right, in other countries and everything. So yeah, it's huge. Stranger Things is just huge. So, but the biggest news, Josh, is happening today. The biggest news in my household.
Oh, do you want to tell them or should I?
I'm getting a haircut.
Wow. The thing is, this is an audio podcast, so no one knows what you look like, and they won't know what you look like after the haircut.
Right. Well, my last haircut was January 2020. Now, you did not hear, you heard that correctly. It's been 2.5 years since I got a haircut. My hair is crazy long. It's longer than like anybody that you know. It's longer than your wife's. It's longer than your girlfriend's hair. It's long.
It's longer than Troy Polamalu.
It is. It's like Troy Polamalu. Matthew's friend saw my hair like this, and he's like, "Hey, you look like Troy Polamalu." So I'll post, I think on our website I'll post it on Facebook too, but I'll post it on our website, the before and after pics so people can see.
I hope your wife records the entire haircut.
She said she might.
Oh, if they cut it properly, I think you can donate your hair.
I know. I'm going to try to do that, yeah. They have to cut it in one long ponytail or braid.
Yeah, so why not? Let them do that.
Yeah, why not? Okay, that's the end of episode 255 of the Skip and Josh podcast.
Okay, have a great week.